No. The second night she's in LA, she stayed at his house, and Matt takes her to the Super Mega
Was ich
Plex,
ganz
which is the
klar
dumb
erkennen
name
kann, ist dieser
that they came up
Turm.
with
Wenn
to
ich diese
talk about their
Hurensohn-Werbung noch
office.
einmal...
The office that had all the trash in it. The office that they tried kicking 2 homeless people out of who were friends of theirs. The second night they hooked up, Matt told Morgue Pie that he was bragging to all his friends about hooking up with her. Seems like Matt Watson is a 14-year-old boy, and
You are all 14-year-old children. Like, I would be ashamed if any of you were older than 22 in this. Holy shit. Oh my god, it's so fucking cringe. Like, what is wrong with Zoomers? Jesus. How old is this guy?
He looks like it too. He specifically mentioned telling Justin about hooking up with Morgue Pie, but he didn't want her to tell anyone that she hooked up with him. Morgue Pie confirms that the Super Megaplex is filthy and told Matt that they need to hire a maid because of how gross it was, and someone made a joke about her moving to LA to clean the Super Megaplex, and Matt ran with it and started earnestly telling her that she should move to LA. Matt ghosted Morgue Pie after she asked him to hang out on September 10th, but texted her to ask her to remove a tweet where she posted a picture wearing his shirt on her personal Twitter. She texted Matt to confront him about ghosting her after sleeping with her, asking if he was still interested in her and if he'd want to see her again if she came back to LA. Matt responded saying, quote, "I would love to hang out again, but I'm going to be in a relationship with Zeph, so it would have to be just as friends." After the second night they hooked up, she mentioned that he stopped reaching out to her and any contact was made by her first, which he eventually stopped responding to altogether. Matt's friends started messaging her on Twitter saying that Matt was bragging about hooking up with her and saying that he's sleeping around. She ended the conversation about saying that she didn't want to
Okay, so it sounds like he played her basically. She got finessed a little bit, yeah.
ruin his life or end his career, but to caution people against idolizing people you don't know on the internet. She expressed major support for Lex and Layden, who we will get to next. Layden was a former merch designer for Super Mega who was let go just a few months ago, and again was let go without Super Mega actually saying anything to their audience. Layden is a friend of Lex's and was one of the only people who she truly could confide in during that time when they both were associated with Super Mega. Layden was also the only openly gay employee that worked at Super Mega and very quickly became a, I guess, punchline for Super Mega over multiple months that Layden was working with them. Layden says that Jim does no work in the office. Layden had to carry his workload during his time at the Super Megaplex. He hangs out to make the boys laugh, micromanages other people's work, and that's it. He mentioned that Justin also does not like Jim. Again, Jim being the freak who kissed Lex.
Wait, somebody said this guy is 32? No shot, I don't believe you. No way.
After she told him that she was sexually assaulted. Can I put a photo of him up on the screen? It's literally what he looks like. Layden said his working relationship with them went to hell after last summer's creator clash. Matt and Ryan would apparently make jokes about Daniel's suicide at the office, specifically towards Layden, who they knew had a history of suicide attempts and suffers from BPD. The boys would joke about Layden coming in to shoot up the office because he was the only one in the Super Megaplex who took their jokes seriously. Layden told Matt and Ryan about giving a free book to a gay kid his mother knew who had attempted suicide after being outed, and they refused to take it seriously, basically making a bunch of jokes. After Layden got upset, Ryan left the room to go scroll on his phone while Matt attempted to blanket the
Oh, he's like 25, okay. Or 24.
situation to get Layden to stop being upset. In the last 2.5 years, Layden says the boys made around 5 jokes he can remember where the punchline was Daniel killing himself. In August 2021, on his first day full-time, Matt yelled at Layden that he was going to show him his dick and balls since he would probably see it at some point anyways, and then flashed Layden, which everyone in the office laughed at, even though Layden found it disturbing. Matt and Ryan used the N-word with the hard R often around the office. He mentioned how when you join Super Mega as an employee, there's a joke that gets told by Matt and Ryan that Chuck E. Cheese has a middle name and the punchline is the N-word. Seems like a funny joke. Ryan would also write the N-word on a sticky note, hard R and all, and would put it on Justin's computer as he edited to shock him, but would destroy the note if he saw Layden come anywhere nearby. This happened multiple times.
Is there any proof of any of these claims at all?
The full Extreme Drunk Mario Kart video that Super Mega put up on their channel. It has footage so bad that they could never release the unedited version. He didn't really elaborate on this as much as I hoped, but he did mention that at some point Matt and Ryan measured each other's bare assholes in front of Layden as a bit, which made him uncomfortable. Super Mega's attorney has threatened Layden with legal action for even discussing the boys in private with his friends because it violates his NDA. Matt filmed and took pictures of Layden without his consent while he was in the urinal multiple times, including at a bar when Layden was drunk and at the Super Megaplex. Layden was raped as a 15-year-old by a YouTuber, and a lot of the experiences he had while working for Super Mega were extremely triggering for him as a result, since most of the negative experiences he had consisted of them violating without consent. As stated by Lex, Layden promised that Matt and Ryan would be sympathetic to Lex about the Don situation, and he was totally blindsided about how everything went down. Matt pulled Layden into a meeting and repeated the classic magnum opus line again. Matt made sure to clarify that since Don was a contracted employee, that they didn't actually have to fire him for the sexual assault, and both of the boys were excited that Lex didn't want to escalate the situation further and get the authorities or other people outside of the company involved. They immediately phased Don out and then made a point to never bring Kelly back publicly. After Ryan's birthday, everyone in the Plex, outside of Rav and Lex, would totally ice Layden out, speaking over him or leaving the room when he spoke. Layden really wanted the guys to know how much he appreciated them and would clean Ryan's house for him and do any odd job they asked of him. Lex mentioned in her video how eventually all cleaning was just designated to Layden because it was easier for one person to do it. Layden had been talking to Justin for weeks about how the boys were looking for any reason to fire Layden. He tried to explain to them some issues he had while working there, which they immediately shut down. Then they explained that if he didn't sign an NDA, they wouldn't give him the severance check that they owe him. Justin puts up with a lot of shit from the boys behind the scene. He didn't elaborate on this either, but he referenced the immature behavior he dealt with during his time working for Super Mega. And finally, Ryan would openly misgender a trans woman that he dated behind her back constantly at work and with friends. Matt would also engage in this, and there were many times that they would casually refer to the woman as a man/guy or straight up call her Ryan's boyfriend. Layden also got in a past Super Mega controversy where they had a pop-up shop. There's a lot more information on it, but Layden ended up having to post an apology taking the blame for something that Super Mega approved at this event. And if we go to the comments, someone says, Layden spoke to Justin today and says that we should give him the benefit of the doubt. He was the kindest person at Super Mega and he has a good heart. Layden also asked to give him encouragement in him creating his own content. He said that, quote, Matt and Ryan do not deserve Justin, and emphasized that Justin's a young man that was manipulated by Matt and Ryan. Yeah, that was a lot, right? This shit
hit piece,
sucks. All I really want out of this video and out of this situation is for the victims in the story to be heard and to have a voice. I think the fact—
Wait, but to be clear though, that was a lie. If all you wanted were the victims to be heard, you would have done a 10 to 15 minute video focusing on what happened to the victims. But like half of this video is just random shit off Reddit posts shitting on Super Mega. It's like the most disgusting type of opportunistic shit. Ugh, that's so gross. Ugh.
Fact that Lex went through hours and hours of shooting to put together this video to talk about her experience really speaks to just how much effort victims have to put into their story in order to, I guess, alleviate some of the fear that their story will not be taken seriously. This is, of course, something that happened to Lex in the past and something that followed her into this situation where, unfortunately, Matt and Ryan didn't only drop the ball, but I don't even know what word I have to like explain what kind of people we are talking about here. These are people who have worked with a lot of the creators that you guys know and love. These are people who have had the power to have an audience that was as tight-knit as Super Mega's audience. They had a lot of people who had their back through a lot of shit that Super Mega went through. And to have all of that turn into so many people being disrespected, so many boundaries being crossed, I'm going to follow the story. I'm going to talk about what Matt and Ryan say in response to this. I'm going to talk about the controversies that come forward. And the reason I want to do that is because they're not shutting it down this time. I think it's time for some people to be held accountable. And I think it's time for people to take some real action on creators
Accountability, huh?
who continually take advantage of the people around them and the people they hire, the people that they choose to work with, the people that they choose to put in this position where they get to be the boss. They get to do whatever they want in a situation, regardless of whether or not they have someone who has done some very disgusting behavior staying and living at their place. Since then, Super Mega has actually fallen below 1 million subscribers on YouTube. They were just hovering above 1 million for a very long time because they weren't gaining many fans. They don't have it anymore. That's all for the video today.
Why are you, like, it's such a weird fixation. Like, yesterday, I looked at their Vanguard portfolio, and I saw that they had to sell off, like, $50,000 to keep their payroll afloat, guys. Good job. Like, what? Like, why are you talking about their sub count, you loser? Like, what an actual soy loser. Like, so, this lady, yeah, she got... But these guys don't even have 1 million subs anymore, okay? Yeah. Like, really? This kid is actually gross. Holy shit.
I want to address everything that's been said.
Why are they being canceled? Because they covered up sexual assault. That is why. Nick did a great video about it. But it's okay, guys. They're going to release a video debunking everything.
And I want to apologize and take accountability where I need to take accountability. For those who don't know, Lex is an old friend of ours who recently released a statement on Twitter, as well as a YouTube video detailing a sexual assault incident that involved our former channel artist Dawn, as well as her recent experiences with myself and Ryan, aka Super Mega. I'm gonna go ahead and read what Lex posted on Twitter so you can get her words verbatim on everything that happened. And then I'm gonna try to supply as much additional context as I can and explain what happened from my perspective. In November 2021, I was sexually assaulted by Dawn on the first night that we had both met while dating. We were both staying at Matt Watson's house. He attempted to physically force me to give him oral sex, and the only reason it didn't happen was because I was forced.
From the guy's perspective, I don't like giving advice like this because it's like so niche. I think this really only applies to like content creators or maybe people in long distance relationships. Fantasizing about sexual activity is a lot different than actually doing sexual activity. Before I meet with somebody, even if we've been sexting, like even if we've traded nudes, videos, or whatever, it's usually good to make it clear, like, listen, I know that we've had a conversation online and we've said certain things. However, just because we've said things online doesn't obligate you to some sort of like physical interaction when we actually meet. I think that I think it's important to clarify that because it sounds like that was probably a little bit of what happened here. Like they expected a lot, they talked a lot, the guy had big expectations, the girl kind of got a little bit spooked out, maybe, if I'm being like really charitable towards her story. But yeah, it's always good to clarify, like just because we've talked online doesn't mean when you meet we have to fuck each other. You have to do things, right?
Forced to physically resist him when he didn't listen to my verbal commands to stop. I waited to confront Dawn until Creator Clash 2022, where I could keep it offline and then never see him again. But then Dawn was invited to Matt's house in LA right before I moved to LA to stay in the house that they used as an office, aka the Super Megaplex. I called them before I got there to tell them what happened so I could avoid being around Dawn, but they gave me mixed messages. Ryan one of support, and 2 days later Matt a phone call where he went into lawyer mode and promptly explained to me that technically Dawn isn't an employee, so we don't have to do anything, how Super Mega is his magnum opus, and how this would be very bad for them if anyone found out. Days later, they talked to Dawn privately at Matt's house where they proceeded to explain to try and get his side of his story, left the conversation with Dawn saying he didn't know what he did wrong, and Matt and Ryan deciding for me that Dawn and I just needed to talk things out in person. The day before I get to their office, Matt texted me and told me he sent Dawn there and I had to hide in the bathroom for him to leave. During my time at the office, every action was held against us, me and Rav, in silence until they felt appropriate to use them to kick us out, even though those things consisted of leaving to Tennessee while I visited my mom for her birthday, even though I bought a car, leaving town to work.
This chick is in California. She says she's homeless and unemployed, and she flies to Tennessee to hang out with her parents on their birthday? That is a vacation.
Rav's partner having attempted to take their life soon after I arrived, and me still being disturbed by what happened with Dawn and their reaction to it, were all held against us, and they used it to gaslight us into being framed as lazy when we were working harder than normal to get the less work done due to having no place to work. Any action that wasn't looking for a place or going to see one, aka being faster to going away, was seen as bad when there was no sense of urgency placed upon us to begin when we arrived. Staying at the office was uncomfortable as they did not want us to be there after this event, and we ended up homeless as a result of them icing us out and refusing to communicate to us almost completely despite staying at their job, even about crucial things like concerns about us living there or when they wanted us gone. Matt and Ryan instead delegated this responsibility to their employees, who we saw as friends, asking us to help them with chores around the house until they had them correspond instead about moving out. upon which we realized what was going on and saw ourselves out before we got kicked out. After this, we had no communication with them. We were robbed on the way out of and back from LA. We lost almost everything we had, and we couldn't get our belongings from the office while living in the car and from hotel to hotel for a while because they weren't talking to us. I felt like I couldn't talk about what was going on with me for the past year because I'd have to explain things that Matt and Ryan clearly didn't want people to know. So I want to begin by offering Lex the deepest and most sincere apology, because the bottom line is Ryan and myself did not handle the situation well. There are a lot of ways that we could have handled the situation better, and we didn't. I also want to state that we never took any action to cover up a sexual assault, and we never tried to cover Dawn from any consequences. And I'll go into that more as we progress through the video. So on May 19th, 2022, after returning home from Creator Clash, I got a call from Dawn in which he was crying, saying that him and Lex had just broken up. He told me he was essentially stuck in Florida because he's from Germany and he had no money and didn't know what to do. And at this time, I didn't know any specifics of what had happened with the breakup. He mentioned to me that they had been distant and then ended up just breaking up. That was the extent of my knowledge on the split at the time. Feeling bad for Dawn, I offered to get him a one-way plane ticket to LA to come crash at my place until he could find a way to get back to Germany. He took me up on the offer, and on May 23rd, he flew out to LA. When Dawn arrived, he cried to me about how heartbroken he was, and the whole time I was none the wiser on what had actually taken place between him and Lex, and if I had known, I would not have invited him out to LA to stay with me. I would not have housed him. I don't remember exactly, but I think Rav was the one who told me initially on my balcony one night, and he told me that Dawn had sexually assaulted Lex. This was something that I did not expect from Dawn, and truth be told, I had a bit of a hard time accepting it. I soon asked Dawn about this, and what he told me was he chalked it up to basically a misunderstanding in the bedroom. At this time, I did not grasp how serious the situation was, and obviously, he did not either. So Lex gave Ryan a call soon after to explain what had happened, and she told him that Dawn had sexually assaulted her. I then had a phone call with Lex shortly after on May 27th, where she detailed to me what had happened between her and Dawn in November of 2021 when they were staying at my house. I want to state that from the beginning, when she told me, I fully believed and have supported Lex, which I stressed to her throughout this phone call. However, I do think that some of the things I said on this call were misinterpreted, and this has zero fault on Lex. This is 100% my fault for poorly articulating my thoughts. I wasn't sure how to talk about this type of situation, and I believe that some of the things that I said to Lex on this call came across very differently from what I intended. But I do know that intent does not change how it was interpreted, a lot of this is like PR, and how Lex felt about it. But I did want to give some more context on that phone call. I told Lex that Ryan and I fully supported her, that we believed her 100%, and that we would be there for her. To be honest, I was terrified of misstepping in this situation due to its sensitive nature and how close it was to home. I was not sure how to navigate it. This was all new territory to me. And I asked her a really stupid question because of that. I asked Lex what she wanted me and Ryan to do about the situation, which was an absolutely dumbass thing to ask. I meant it from a place of, we want to help and we will do whatever it is you want us to do to make the situation better. I now see that obviously came across as me putting the responsibility of the situation back on the victim, and I feel terrible about that. My intention was to be helpful, and I went about it very poorly. In Lex's statement, she said that I brought up technicalities over Don's employment, as well as me saying something along the lines of how much it would suck for Super Mega if this got out, and that Super Mega was my magnum opus, and I didn't want anything to ruin that. Over the course of the phone call, we did discuss Don's role with Super Mega, and while I don't recall making any of those specific comments, I do know I brought up our business and how Don's actions might affect that. That was completely wrong of me to do. I never should have brought up anything as trivial as that, while Lex was telling me something very difficult. I was kind of freaking out, and I was thinking out loud. It should not have even been on my mind. And that was selfish of me. What I should have done was just listened and offered support and not question anything. Rav and Lex have both mentioned that I've made comments where I've said, well, Don isn't technically an employee, so we don't have to do anything. I don't see the logic in that or why I would have said that, because That's not something I would have said. I think it's more realistic that something was misinterpreted or miscommunicated there. I ended the call by voicing complete support for Lex and telling her that Ryan and I were here for her and we would figure out what to do. In hindsight, the answer is obvious, and we should have acted immediately, but we didn't. For context, here are the text messages right before and right after that call, showing that I was supportive. I was not completely callous like it was made out to be. And as a side note, I'm hoping that people will not confuse me providing more context where I think it's needed with just getting defensive. To be honest, Ryan and I were scared of this whole situation. We knew that we needed to talk to Dawn, so me and Ryan organized a meeting with him at our office where we sat him down and confronted him about this. We asked him what had happened that night, and he explained it from his perspective, which was very different from Lex's perspective. We felt a little confused on what had happened that night, as did Rav. Rav was also trying to figure out what had gone down, and at this point, I don't think any of us still were taking it as seriously as we should have been, and that is something that I sincerely regret. Because we did not take it as seriously right from the jump as we should have. Instead, we asked questions and tried to do some detective work and get to the bottom of it, and maybe have Dawn talk to Lex to try to figure out, you know, if this was a misunderstanding, which I now see was an absolutely, you know, terrible move, suggesting that. Having a victim and an abuser, you know, telling them to, you know, maybe to talk to each other, horrible. And that is something that I'm so sorry about, Lex. Here you can see some text messages between myself and Rav, where Rav is saying that he figured out a little more context on the situation at one point. Rav did wisen up quicker than Ryan and I did, though. I think that he took it more seriously than we did. We were still confused and not sure what to do, and we messed up. Anyway, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit to July 4th. We had a party at the Super Megaplex, and afterwards, Lex came over to my place to crash for the night. While we were in the living room after we got back, I was on one couch, she was on the other. We had a very in-depth conversation about the entire Dawn situation. At this point, I'd had more time to reflect on it and kind of see where I had messed up and better understood what had actually taken place and how my response to that was poor. In this conversation, I sincerely apologized to Lex. I admitted where I was wrong and I took responsibility. I expressed remorse for how I had acted during the situation, and she accepted my apology. This is why I ultimately found myself a bit confused as to why there's a notion that I have never addressed this with Lex, because I have. I, however, don't blame Lex at all for how she may feel, because this is a very complicated situation, and I can't even begin to pretend to understand how she feels and what kind of emotions are at play here. Despite our delayed action on this, I do want to state unequivocally that Ryan and I never made any attempts to cover up a sexual assault or to aid Dawn. People have been theorizing and asking us for over a year, where did Dawn go? Why is Dawn no longer the channel artist? This is the reason. In response to what Lex told us, we removed Dawn as our channel artist and we cut contact with him 100%. Personal business, we have not had any communications. And we did not cover this up from other people. For example, I was the one who told Ross over the phone because Ross had a show with Dawn and I felt like he needed to know this. However, we weren't like super open about this to the people, especially, you know, we didn't say anything to the public about it. We never stated our reasoning for cutting contact with Dawn or removing him as the channel artist because Lex had not publicly
become like coaches and then team
Right.
owners
Yeah.
and a lot of it's because everybody's in the industry. Like, no fucking shit. Like, do you think
Yeah,
a
of
fucking
course.
librarian is gonna go and work as like a fucking military lobby? Like, of course not. Everybody's gonna be in industry, right? Like, a lot of these things have really simple explanations, but people like to go right to the conspiracy because it's more entertaining, and then they don't have to do any reading or research. Anytime something bad happens, they can just blame evil billionaires or evil military contractors, and then they can save their own mind from having to engage with the actual reasons of like why these countries get fucked up or the histories of these countries or whatever. And everything is so much simpler and easier to like hate.
Okay, I mean, some of these things at face value, I agree with outright. I think some of these content we presented were pretty good. That wasn't a bad take. Okay, all right. Well, to wrap this up, you're traveling right now, and you're out there in Europe. Did you get the vaccine or what?
Yeah, of course. I'm double vaxxed. Well, or the Pfizer shot. You get 2 shots. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you're maxed out. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. What do you tell the people that say 0.02 death rate and not approved FDA lol? What do you think? What do you think about that? Those
They
two
should get
things?
shot, thrown in a ditch in a video game.
Listen, you need to use words that aren't as hardcore when it's speaking to my
Wait,
to my people.
I meant shot. I said shot like at the vaccine. Wait, what did you think I meant? Like it's shots.
I thought you meant like they get shot like with a gun.
No, what? Why would I ever say that? That would be horrible. I mean, like,
Jesus.
the reality is that like these fucking losers are literally putting the entire fucking world at risk. These guys are like bioterrorists. like not getting vaccinated and walking around publicly is basically the exact same as just running around and like shitting in the street and smearing it on everybody and then saying like how many people actually die from getting shit on them every year, right? It's the dumbest, stupidest thing in the world. Like they're literally turning their fucking bodies into these bioweapon factories to see how many variants they can fucking breed because they're too lazy or stupid or conspiracy fucked in their head to actually go and get a fucking shot. Like it's so ridiculous. I know that you're younger, but like I'm 32. When I was a kid, like getting vaccines wasn't like a fucking controversial thing. It's just something you did.
Yeah. I never heard anybody talk about a vaccine in any way, shape, or form when I was a kid and getting vaccinated for all the things at school. I don't think I've ever heard an adult or a kid or a worker or a teacher speak about a vaccine like it's anything else but what it is.
Mm-hmm. And you can tell when people are like ideologically motivated because they like everybody says like these dumb fucking things. They're like, oh well, if you get vaccinated, you can still get sick. Like, oh, you can still blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, if you put your seatbelt on, you can still die in a car accident, right? Like, but there's like a million. If you put a helmet on when you ride a bike, you can still die in a motorcycle accident. Like, there's a million things that could still kill you, but it's all about like mitigating risk. And the problem is that like the more people are exposed to infections, the greater the chance you have that one of these things are going to mutate, and then the greater the chance you have that it's going to become more infectious or more deadly. So for instance, the R0, the number of people that are likely to get infected from one person for the normal virus, I think is 3, and from the Delta variant, it's like 6 to 10. So like it's just absolutely unbelievable that people won't take like, and these are like the minimum fucking steps. Like personally, I would rather get vaccinated than have to wear a fucking mask everywhere because that shit is annoying, especially at the gym or especially when you go out to eat or when you're walking and it's hot outside. Like what, like wearing masks suck. Like just get fucking vaccinated. It's not that hard.
Yeah. I mean, this take was pretty spot on. That's what I was saying in the chat, but people still get mad at me. They keep saying like,
yeah, because people respond with like dumb shit that you can tell that they don't actually care. They're not thinking about it, right? Like anytime somebody says like you can still get sick, like you know that you can do that with anything, right? Like why would you ever take a shower? Like you could still get sick, or you could still smell bad, or why would you ever wear shoes? You could still step on a nail, or why would like it's just so fucking stupid, right? Like nothing in life is 100%. You know, you take risks, right? Why would you ever get pregnant? You know, you could have a baby that's as dumb as a Twitch chatter. Why the fuck would you ever do it like anything? Like it's so why ever take birth control? Like you could still be a 0.1. Like people like 0.2%, blah blah. Like you can still get pregnant if you wear a condom. Like you can still get pregnant if you're on birth control. Like you can still get like yeah, it's just dumb. It's fuck. I don't care about all the other stuff like the Afghanistan or like socialism or any of that. The vaccine stuff really bothers me because I have anti-vaxxers in my own fucking family now, and we've had like 2 family members die from the fucking coronavirus. And like my mom is sending me Facebook memes about how if you get injected with any of these vaccines, you're gonna turn into like metal and like stuff will stick to you. It's like absolutely fucking insane.
Metal will stick to you?
Yeah, my mom, Melina was with me. My mom was literally joking. She was like, yeah, your dad got vaccinated. I'm going to wait a month and try to stick a magnet on him, and I'll see if I want to get it or not. Like,
Jesus. Okay, well, I mean, wait a minute. That'd be kind of sick, though. You could be like Magneto. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like it seems like people don't take it like people downplay the fuck out of it and like, oh dude, look at the death rates, oh mega lol, and then all of a sudden somebody in their parents gets sick, and then it's like oh my god, guys, take me as an example, man, go get vaccine. All of a sudden it's like a big ass swap, and it's like very odd. It's like it's really crazy to me that
I wanted to spend a day just going over like all like I think there's like a picture that's floating around on the internet now. There were like 6 Republican, I don't know if they were all in media or like small radio hosts or whatever. There were like 6 people that were all like anti-vaxxers and joked about masks and shit, and I think 3 of them have died so far. And they're not like super old. These are guys like in their 40s and 50s. They're not like in their 90s or whatever, like reasonably healthy people, as healthy as Republicans are. But like, yeah, I don't know. There have been like so many people at this point that have had like Facebook posts making fun of masks and making fun of like vaccines and shit, and like then they die from the coronavirus. Like it's unbelievable. I wonder if they wonder about it, like when they're dying in bed, like barely able to fucking gasp for air, like oh god, like I'm gonna look so bad on Facebook after I fucking die like an idiot. Like
I think from what I've seen that I mean the suffering, I think it'd be kind of like the least of their worries, how it's going to look. I mean, I think fuck, I was gonna say something else. There was one last thing. There was one last thing. Yeah, I don't remember what it is. It was probably vaccine related, to be honest. I think, listen, I actually wanted to get the shot, and you know what? It took me, I think, 8 or 9 minutes total in and out of the place. It was like bang bang, and I'm a nobody. I come from Canada, you know, and I'm in the United States. I literally got in there, bing bang out, and for free at a local.
I mean, that's literally, yeah, Molina did the same thing. Like in Sweden, it takes like, I don't know what they're doing now, but before in Sweden, you'd like sign up for one shot in a month, and then you'd have to wait like 2 months to get the second one. But Molina came in with me. We're in a fucking grocery store in America. This is what it's like in America. You're in the grocery store, and they're on the intercom, and they're like, please come get vaccinated. We'll give you $10 off your groceries. Please come to the bag. Like, it's that free. Like, they're trying so hard. And fucking 55% of these fat, stupid, diabetic-ridden fucks won't just go to a goddamn grocery store and get a fucking vaccine. For the first time in your life, you have access to free fucking medical shit in the United States, and these fucking losers won't do it. It is one of the most embarrassing and shameful moments of our history. Holy shit. It is so sad.
Now that you put it like that, that's actually pretty facts. You're right. That now that it's free and it's actually helpful, nobody is actually getting it. Interesting. Okay. Now that we're done with that, last thing, dude.
Yep.
Listen, I've had bad takes, okay? And people are roasting me for my bad takes, but this one, people are really rolling over it, and it makes you feel insecure that my take is so bad, okay? Take on Carson.
Carson, okay.
The Carson thing, texting, 1917, you know, like who? Thoughts?
Who the fuck cares? 17 and a 19-year-old? Like, who the fuck cares? This is like problems on Twitter, by Twitter, and for Twitter. Like, this is like the dumbest shit in the world. Like, these are people where it's like, you're a senior in high school and you're dating, and you have like a junior girlfriend, and then you go to college and everybody on the internet calls you a pedophile. Like, it's absolutely fucking unbelievable. A lot of people on the internet don't know what grooming is. They just say it all the time. And the idea that like the difference between people will say like abuse of power too, and they don't know what that means either. It's just a whole bunch of like buzzwords that people throw around. I'm going to be really clear. It might be the case that Carson like did some really fucked up or bad shit. I didn't see logs of that anywhere. I just saw logs of him like flirting and shit. And like, who the fuck cares? To be really clear, well, can I define like two things real quick?
Go.
Grooming, the act of grooming, okay? Grooming is when you present yourself as like an innocent friend, oftentimes to a younger person, and then you manipulate that later into a sexual relationship. So like an example of grooming might be that like you're like a 22-year-old guy and there's like a 16-year-old that plays soccer after school, and you start playing games with him and other people, and then like maybe in a few months you're like, oh, we should go take a shower and blah blah blah, and then you start to like you've earned like a position of trust in a non-sexual position, and then you exploit it in a sexual way. That's what grooming is. Grooming is super fucked because it destroys people's ability to trust other people. So if a 25-year-old goes up to a 15-year-old and he's like, hey, you want to fuck? I want to fuck you. That's not fucking grooming. That's just a pedophile, or that's just a guy trying to fuck somebody that's too young. That's not grooming. Every single time an older person tries to fuck a younger person, even if it's illegal or against age of consent, even if it's a 60-year-old and a 10-year-old, it's not grooming for them to just walk up and be like, oh, I want to fuck. Grooming refers to like the specific process of gaining a younger person's trust and then later on abusing that and exploiting that in a sexual way after they trust you in a non-sexual manner. That's what grooming means. And I don't think I've ever seen anything from Carson where he's like being like really manipulative or really crazy in DMs, where he's saying shit like, oh, like, yo, no, like we should date. Like if you send me nudes, like I'll feature you in my YouTube channel, or like, oh, come on, don't you want to send me nudes? Like I'm a really big YouTuber, like that'd be really cool. That would be an example of like abusing a position of power. Just talking to a fan isn't abusive in and of itself. It doesn't make any sense to say that. It's fucking stupid.
Okay, that's okay. I agree with the last part. I mean, I agree with the whole take as long as I learn from it and I become smarter about it. I just thought that it would it could be dangerous to leave people to draw the gray line on this about the age gap thing, and it's why sometimes we have things that are black and white. Oh, it stops at this age. This is black. This is white, and for people to make their own judgment on what is too much or what is acceptable, and to widen or narrow that gap or whatever. I feel like it was a possibly or potentially a dangerous thing. No?
This gets into like a broader conversation, but like the short is that like I don't like the idea of like The problem with using ages is that nobody actually knows why it's bad for like a 25-year-old and like a 16 or a 15-year-old to like start hooking up. Like that's the problem, is that nobody actually understands why these relationships have the potential to be abusive. Instead, they just look at the ages, and then you get into really weird areas where it's like, oh my God, 19, 17, it's crossed the line, now it's really bad. But the problem is a lot of the reasons why those older ages can be manipulative can actually be reasons why like normal relationships are manipulative. Like, so say for instance, like say you're a 15-year-old and you know, you don't have a lot of freedom, you don't know anything about the world, and then like some like 30-year-old guy is like coming on to you, he's got a car and his own place, and like he's like pretending that he's way more worldly. Like that can kind of like mind fuck you, because like, well, this person like knows so much more, he's like kind of in a big position of power over me, he can like offer me a lot that I can't get in other places. Like, and the one path through that might be like sucking his dick, you know? Like these types of relationships are really bad because of those reasons. It's not just because he's 30 and because she's 15. That's like that's not really the reason why it's bad. It's bad because of all of the things that that person has experienced and that that person can offer, and because the younger person just doesn't know any better because they're not in that position of power, right? And if you think about it, like if you go back, you know, like even 100 or 200 years, right? Like people would get married and shit at 13 and 14, right? Was that always like rape, or was that always horrible? Like in some cases, yeah, it might have been. But another problem too is that like you can find people that are like 21 or 22 that still live with their parents, they go to college, they've never had a job. Like theoretically, like a 21, 22-year-old in that position could be super taken advantage of by like a 22 or 23-year-old that is like super independent, has her own job, is wealthy, has a car, like, and you don't even need a big age gap to do it, you know?
Okay.
So like I guess like when I look at like when I look at like Carson stuff, when you say like 19 or 17, like that doesn't mean much. What I would look for is like, you look at the conversation. If Call Me Carson, if the girl is saying things like oh my God, like I've never gotten to travel out of state before, I've never gotten to leave, and Carson is like, oh really? Well, if you want, like you can go to like you can go to PAX West and I'll fly you out and we can like share a room and I can introduce you.
Yeah,
and if she's like, oh my God, like yeah, I want to meet these people. And like
using the experience or things that you've gotten out of age to leverage it or to use it again. These patterns.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that is like, that's the abusive stuff. Just being popular and fucking a fan, or just being popular and having really, that in and of itself isn't bad if the other person is not like, is able to like understand what's going on and can make decisions for themselves and like isn't going to have this stuff like leveraged against him. But I'm just saying like it's a potential for abuse with famous people. But I never saw evidence of Carson doing that, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's always been I don't know. I'm really straight with myself and stuff like that. It's like a super hardcore no-no. And a very like avoid at all costs type of thing, right? So it it's hard for me to relate or to see myself interacting in those ways when seeing others do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
That's actually one of the reasons why I didn't tell anybody, but maybe I told my streamer, but it's a little bit. It's why I closed my public Snapchat. I used to have a public Snapchat where I would just send a bunch of whatever. Right, and then people would like would say hey, I'd say hi back, like hundreds of messages or whatever, right? And just sometimes I'd be uncomfortable, like, oh, this message, it's nice, but it looks like it's like loaded or something, and I don't know the reg. I'd like, fuck it, and then it was like it was just weird to me. It's just weird.
No, like 100%. And people will get mad at me for this take, but I don't care. If you are DMing somebody, you're flirting every single time, because there is absolutely no reason for you to send a private message to a large public figure unless you want to flirt with them, because otherwise just leave a public comment. Why would that's like pulling somebody aside. Like if you walked up to a party and you saw somebody that you liked in the middle of the room, you'd walk and be like, oh hey, what's up? And they'd be like, oh hey, what's up? But if you're like, hey, can you come over here to the hallway so I can chat with you a second? You wouldn't do that to say hi to somebody.
Wait, okay.
Yeah, you know what, 100%.
That's actually something I don't fully agree with. I'll tell you. I'll tell you why.
What? Okay, tell me why.
Okay, I think some people, it's not about okay. In my opinion, I think the reasons and the motivations why somebody would go for a DM instead of a public message is that they want to feel like they've been interacted as an individual person that's directed to them and nobody else. A one-to-one attention that they crave so much. Not something that is out there to get social validation, something they get to get their own personal validation.
Yeah, and there might be people that do that, but I would say that's inappropriate. You shouldn't be gunning for that one-on-one interaction with somebody, because it's so unbelievably inappropriate to do that. Can you imagine in any other situation doing that. Like, say for instance, like, let's say there's a college professor that everybody likes. You see him every day. You come here like, oh hey, what's up? What up? Could you imagine like sending that person like a private message on Facebook? Or like if there was a girl or a guy in class of the opposite sex, could you imagine sending them just like a one-on-one message to say like hello to? Like in any other situation, reaching out to somebody on a private channel is considered like a relatively intimate thing. If you're doing that, then like you're sending like really fucked up signals to people. You also have to keep in mind on the other side of this, and nobody will talk about this, and these takes are unpopular, I don't give a fuck, they're true as fuck. On the other side of this too is oftentimes you have young men that, no offense, if we play fucking video games full time, we're not getting a lot of attention from women. And, you know, people will talk about like, oh, well, like a 20-year-old is in a big position of power over like a 17 or 18. Well, a fucking 18-year-old girl that looks fucking hot is also in a big position of power over like a 19 or 20-year-old guy that's never gotten attention from women in his life, you know? So like, yeah, you know, there can be power one way, but there's a lot of power in another way too. Like, you will have guys that will throw away their entire fucking life like chasing some young fucking pussy. You can't tell me that that's not some type of position of power, right? And then also, and another unpopular take, I'll give these all day because it's true as fuck. Another unpopular take, a lot of guys talk about how like, oh my god, it's so immoral that this guy like fucked a fan or this guy flirted with a girl this much. Fuck you, dude. You don't have pussy thrown at you on a fucking platter ever. You have to work hard for it. When you get into like these big esports or these big like Twitch streaming positions and you have like legitimately fucking like 9 out of 10 girls and like, hey, I want to suck your dick, like, can you come fucking touch my boobs? Dude, 99% of guys could not fucking say no to that. They might pretend that they could on fucking Reddit, but absolutely fucking not if they were in enough position, guaranteed. I don't want to be like super doomer, but there's a quote where it's like, men are only as faithful as their options. I wouldn't trust any non-celeb person to ever give a good opinion about dealing with the pressures of being like a celeb, especially if you're a young man, especially if you're a fucking nerd, and especially for the first time in your life, you've got girls throwing themselves at you. It's a really, really, really hard and difficult position to be in and to navigate.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, like I said, even though it's something that I found myself like I could fall into, I always try to work with the code. Does that make sense? Like almost like an internal rule that's like a self-regulatory like hardcore like black on white rules, like a code. And I've always had this, and it's always like really helped me in navigating these things like very easily. So, and to never like be in trouble or be caught something weird or whatever. So, and it's just nothing weird, right? And I've had because I would open like dozens, right, of DMs, right? And you know, I did it because it entertained me. So I would say, happy, it's my birthday. I'd say, happy birthday. Oh, I'm going to bed. I'd say, good night. You know. Oh, I'm waking up. I'm eating this weird thing in Europe or whatever. I was like, oh, it looks good. I would just reply whatever. But then at one point, I started getting like weird ones, one that were more recurrent, right? And at one point, there was like a girl was like, my husband's in a shower, like come join me or whatever. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And then as I like more and more of those, and they were like real. And I was like, geez, I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like, you know what? No. No. That's the point. It became that there was so many of them that I was like, I can't do this. I can't be on this app and have recurrent messages from actual weirdo temptation baiting dog shit all day. It's just not healthy. It's just not worth it, and I think it's a problem. So I just stopped using it entirely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I think I understand most of the standpoints that you have, except about the DMing part. I feel like I've interacted with I'm not afraid of saying it. A lot of people know this from this chat. I've responded to probably thousands of DMs or snaps in a really like cool, almost like entertaining way, but it was saying whatever, right? And it's why I think I understand why some people DM. I think it's really like the one-to-one privatized thing that they feel like it was towards them, but not in public. That makes them feel like they're given the attention or whatever. But sometimes something that has a double-edged sword, because it becomes too parasocial over there or too involved. People are like, oh, he answered me 4 messages in a row over the span of 2 weeks, and now he hasn't done it anymore. And look, I sent him, look, that is my birthday, and this time he hasn't replied to me. That's kind of weird. That's kind of unfair. And then now they feel betrayed, and they feel like I've pulled them just to cut them off, and that's really unlucky. And that's one of the main things, one of the reasons why I stopped responding to DMs like that.
Yeah, I agree. That's and again, like, I know that like it's always going to be a popular take. I think it's incredibly inappropriate to message somebody privately unless it like needs to be a private message. So for instance, if you're trying to like fuck somebody, you're trying to like flirt with somebody, I think that it's really inappropriate to sound like a larger creator like, oh my god, like X, like I love your streams, and like looking for like a response or whatever. Like there's just no one, like it's unhealthy for you personally. Like you're gonna fuck your mind up, right? If you really want the attention, fucking donate $5 on stream, or leave a public comment on the Twitter, or somewhere on Instagram. Like the idea that you're like looking for that one-on-one interaction with somebody that streams to like 50, 60,000 people, or has like millions of followers, like it's super unhealthy mentally, and I don't think that people should be doing that. I don't think it's a good thing. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
But yeah.
Yeah, well, I always felt bad because like I get a lot of I used to get a lot of cool DMs like, hey man, it's my husband's birthday and he watches the stream all the time and he wants you to say like a quick like hi or something like that. And I would send like videos sometimes like a hey, what up man, happy birthday, whatever. But then later on, over the next couple months, because I accepted the DM, whatever it's on Instagram or Twitter, because I accepted the DM, right? Now the line of communication is now both ways, right? If they send a message, it gets to me, right? The only way to stop that is to block them, and then I would get a lot of DMs like, oh, hey man, I'm trying to buy this game. Can I get a couple bucks? Hey,
God,
could you do this or could you do that? And a lot of them ended up being about money, which made me like really uncomfortable. There's like they're in the DMs. They know I received it. I had it because I accepted the initial DM, which was harmless, and now they're asking me for like V-Bucks or like Steam cards or something, and I'm like, dude, I mean, the fuck is that, man? And it makes me feel bad, but I shouldn't feel bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Have you got? Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I get those emails. Sometimes people have like the sob stories, where they'll be like, "Oh, like my brother like lost his job and my family's really hungry and I just need like $50 or whatever." For it, it's like, bro, like what the fuck? Have you ever had people email you looking for job opportunities, where they're like, "Oh my god, XQC, like I want to shadow you, like I want to do this, like blah blah blah," or like, "Is there anything that I can help you with? Like I'll be like an unpaid assistant." Or do you get people that send you shit like that?
Oh yeah, a bunch of people that ask to be cooks. Drivers, assistants, mentors, personal chauffeurs or whatever the fuck, fucking butlers. I've had crazy amount over the years. People send me their fucking resumes and shit, and with like pictures of them, like oh this is me, look I'm legit, and have like this like big ass beard, and they're like yeah man, I live in the area. I'm like I always thought those to be a little bit odd unless asked, you know. I don't blame them, because if one is something like, oh shit, yeah, I actually need that, yeah, it could have been cool, I guess. But other than that, it's like, but other than that, I don't use my email anymore, because people, I mean, they signed me up for a bunch of bullshit on that email. That email is gone. Now I get fucking jobs in your area, big schnauzer. We have new results for your test, fucking douche nozzle, and it's like, I'm on like a million fucking email lists and shit. I've had a guy order pizza with my email to his address, and I could track the deliveries going to his address. Like, why don't you use your own email, dumb fuck? And like, I've had like such weird shit with that. It's just I don't know, man. Like, some of this stuff, I have to actively and mechanically remind myself that I shouldn't feel bad about it, right? But it just keeps popping up. It's like, you have to fight like the normal human responses or whatever. And I think if you were susceptible to that and you didn't have those patterns, you would fall for that 100%. You would succumb, right? To these things.
I mean, like, it's human nature too. That's why people beg on the street and make a lot of money doing this stuff, right? Like, yeah, of course.
Okay. Well, that was a healthy discussion. Thanks for taking my call, man.
Yep, no problem, buddy.
What are you eating?
Skittles.
So, what about your fiance or your wife? Is she around?
Mm-hmm. Why, do you want to talk to her? Hello.
I think she's talking to this,
Good one. She's actually fucking like 10 guys right now. You actually called me, and the reason why I didn't call is because I was crying, because I was so sad I was getting fucked, so that's why I had to wait a second to dry my tears.
Wait a minute, hold on.
What?
Now that you brought that up,
Uh-oh.
Anytime that I was looking at a video the other day about it was what would you do, right?
Okay.
And some guy was a waiter talking to some guy's girlfriend, and he would say like really mild, nothing stuff. And I was like, dude, if the dude is secure about his relationship, I mean, he won't give a fuck. If anything, it's entertaining or whatever. And it can boost like his partner's like confidence that she still has or whatever. But Chow's like a cuck, actual cuck. He's letting her talk to this guy. That's just being a cuck lord. He's being cucked right now. Take?
Yeah.
Takes on that?
Yeah, people are insecure as fuck. I don't know if I've talked to you about this before. Have you ever had it at where you're at like TwitchCon or you're at any type of like these types of conventions where you're talking to a girl, so a girl will come up and be like, oh my god, are you like X or blah blah blah, and you're like, oh yeah, and you're chatting for like a couple, like maybe like 20 seconds, and then like a guy will come up out of nowhere and like throw his arm around, and like, oh hey, what's up, this is my group, yeah.
That's a classic. It's actually why I usually keep a certain amount of distance, or like an angle, because I know it's coming. Just on how the internet is going, you know for a fact we're coming in.
Yeah.
This is so common. I mean, I can't stress it enough. But I mean, it's not to be rude, which is fine if people can do that. It's most of the interactions are like that. Yeah, it's kind of and I think it's kind of odd though. It's kind of like, dude, people want like a picture, whatever. Like I just make videos and I react to like boring shit. I'm not gonna like steal your girl on the fly. Like I don't know who the fuck. I know what they feel so threatened by me or whatever. Like I'm a skeleton man. You know, I don't know why it happens like.